All right, hope everybody made it back from Nashville okay, and hope you guys had a great time in Nashville last night post-game as well. Again, just want to thank our fans for the awesome turnout in Nashville. That was awesome, and appreciate it even more today, just being home and thinking about it and watching the tape of the game here in the office all day and seeing all the garnet and black, not just on the sidelines, but both sidelines and the end zone. They were awesome. So I want to thank them. Proud of our team and getting bowl eligible. I don't take getting bowl eligible for granted. Never will. There's a lot of teams in college football right now that are sitting there with 4 wins or 5 wins or 3 wins, fighting like crazy to get a 6th win to go to a bowl game. So for our guys to have done it after 9 games with a lot of the adversity we've faced this year with injuries on the defensive side of the ball and starting 1 and 2 is something that we're really, really proud of, but certainly not satisfied with. We were on a mission last week to get a win and play great, and we're on the same mission this week also to try and get our 7th win. Looking back, at the game, obviously it starts with the penalties, had way too many, and as I said in the press conference last night, we've been a good team this year and a disciplined team and haven't had a lot of penalties. So last night was certainly not like us, and we've got to be better. Offensively, love the start that we had. I love the lack of turnovers that we had against a team that had been really disruptive in creating turnovers. Love that part of it. Did not like the way that we finished. To only score 7 points in the second half, very disappointing. And then to not be able to, put the game away on those last couple drives, I did not like that. We put our defense back out there a couple times when we didn't have to. Defensively, loved our start, getting a turnover on the first series that against a team that hadn't turned the ball over, and then getting 3 more throughout the night was huge to win the turnover battle. Against a team like that doesn't beat themselves. We told our players we were going to have to go take it from them, and we did. Didn't like our tackling on defense. We tackled poorly and misfit some gaps, and that turned into some explosive runs for them. But overall, really pleased with a lot of the things that we did, and it's always great when you can win a football game on the road in the SEC, but then have so much to correct and clean up. We were able to coach them really hard today about that. After going back and looking at the tape, our players of the game on offense were Spencer Rattler and Jaheim Bell. Spencer played great, and Jaheim played great, and credit to Jaheim. Like I said last night, that wasn't easy going and just literally changing positions in the middle at the beginning of the week, and he looked very natural. He was just a really good football player, and it showed. Our defensive players of the game were Jordan Birch. He was extremely dominant up front and showed his pass rushing ability at the end of the game. And then DQ Smith as well. What he and really Nick Eamon both are doing, they're true freshmen, and they're literally playing every single snap of the game on defense. They don't come off the field. And DQ was disruptive last night, caused a fumble, had a sack, and then was very improved in his pass coverage. Special teams was Darius Rush. He continues to be a great player for us on defense and special teams. Peyton Mangrum, Kai Kroger, and Tonka Hemingway. And then our scout team players of the week were Kason Henry, Donovan Westmoreland, and DJ Twitty. So, again, proud of our guys. Injury-wise, came out of the game pretty good. No issues from last night. And then we're optimistic on Marshawn Lloyd. We'll see how he progresses. We just got off the practice field. He didn't really do anything tonight. We'll see how he progresses tomorrow and then what he's able to do in practice on Tuesday. But optimistic he'll be able to go this weekend. Questions?
Hey, Shane, it's Dave. Obviously, the secondary took the brunt of some of those bang-ups last night, but no lingering injuries. Is everybody good to go at this point for Florida?
Yeah, that's what I said. There's no issues from last night, and did have some guys that got banged up, but nothing that we feel like is long term. Again, it's November in the SEC. Your body's not going to feel good. So do we have some guys that are banged up and not 100%? Sure, but don't have anybody that coming off the field from last night that we don't feel good about. And then that includes B.J. Gibson. He's getting his MRI, or I guess it's an MRI tomorrow on his hamstring. Would not say that he's doubtful or definitely going at this point. We'll kind of see how the MRI looks, but we're optimistic that he'll be able to do something for us this weekend also.
Shane, it's Ben. Just on that secondary, I mean, obviously they had to deal with a bunch of guys coming in and out. How do you kind of think they dealt with that? And I guess what do you kind of see from that group sort of being thrown into kind of a crazy situation, having rotated as many defensive backs as you did last night?
Yeah, I think they're doing a great job. You know, I mean, we started Rush and Smith, Cam, and they did some good things. And then Phil asked me the question last night about Cam Smith, and it's kind of what I said. He just had a, chest was, whether it was a chest cold or whatever. He wasn't 100% in the second half, and we've got confidence in Sell and Rush. So Cam was out in the second half, and then, B.J. Gibson got hurt. Devontae Reed, like we'd already talked about, was banged up. Nick Emanwari and DQ were playing every single snap, so we are rolling a lot of guys in there. But I thought those guys, continue to do a great job. Give Torian, credit. He's done a really good job coaching them, and we got guys that can play in multiple positions, and we're going to have to down the stretch.
Thanks.
Hey, Shane, it's Hale. I want to just ask a little bit about B.J. Gibson, just in his background and him obviously coming in as a walk-on and being a little unheralded, so to speak. How did that come together, him getting here, and obviously what's it meant to have him being a contributing member of the team so far this season?
He's been awesome. I guess it was summer of 2021, I guess, or winter of 2021. I can't keep it all straight, but I just remember, our Taylor Edwards and our recruiting staff, and then some of our defensive coaches saying that there was a young man that had been at the Naval Academy, I guess, that was from this region and was looking to transfer back and was willing to walk on. And he played snaps previously, and when I, saw him, I mean, obviously a guy with his size and his length, that's what you're looking for at defensive back, and to be able to get him to be willing to walk on was a huge blessing for us that he was interested in us, and he's been fantastic. He's a great young man and doesn't really say anything. He just goes out there and just kind of tries to improve at his craft every single time he takes the field, and he went in there. He had been in there in some games earlier this season and did okay, and he started last night and certainly did okay.
Hey, Coach. Andrew Lyon, Gamecock. A couple other guys that saw some extended action last night were Stone Blanton and Bam Martin Scott at linebacker. What was the thought process behind those guys playing such significant snaps in an SEC contest, and what were your thoughts on their performance overall?
Yeah, the thought going into it was we needed to continue to get those guys plays in the game. One, because they're good players and they can help us. Two, just to be able to spell and give Brad Johnson and Sherrod Green a blow. I mean, we felt coming out of the Missouri game, and I guess probably a little bit of the A&M game, both, that those guys had played too many snaps, talking about Brad and Sherrod. So, one, just trying to keep them fresh, and then also being able to, get those guys in there because they're good football players, and they're smart young men too. They know what to do. So when you trust them to know what to do and get in there and be active and make some plays, that's what we wanted to do. So they did a good job in there last night. Bam is athletic, and if you watch closely, I mean, he did a lot for us last night, whether it be in coverage or rushing the passer. And then Stone's a guy. He's extremely smart. I feel like Stone is in this football facility as much, if not more, than the coaches. Football is very important to him, and he knows exactly what's going on, and he's very mature for a true freshman. So both those guys did a really good job last night.
Hey, Shane, it's Mike Uva. Obviously, over the course of the season, even going back to last year, the impact that Pete Lembo has had on the coaching staff, I think a lot of people look at it from a special teams standpoint. I know the focus right now isn't going to be on any awards individually, but obviously that's around the corner, and, I'm sure you would say that he deserves to have his name on that Broyles list. I bring all this up because outside of what people are seeing from a special team standpoint, what has Pete done from a day-to-day standpoint to help your program continue to grow?
He's obviously phenomenal from a special team standpoint. He and Stanton Weber do a great job, and it's so beneficial when you have, to me, a guy that he doesn't coach a position, so he's able to coach just special teams. That's where he's able to spend all of his time, and then he's able to just interact with different coaches on the staff and all the players as well, and develop relationships. So he's been awesome from that standpoint. The fact that he's been a head coach and I can bounce ideas off of him and things like that, and I mean, he understands, like, this chair that I sit in my position, it's lonely, and it's different things that just you deal with that people on the outside don't understand, and he does because he sat in that chair. So I appreciate that, and then I think the other thing too that he doesn't get enough credit for is his recruiting. He doesn't have necessarily a position to recruit, but he has an area to recruit, and he works his butt off recruiting that area, and has really opened up a lot of doors for us, particularly in the Northeast.
Shane, it's Dave again. Darius Rush just having a fantastic season. Seems like he's always in the right place at the right time. When you came in, did you know a lot about his background, that he kind of came in as a receiver, multi-use athlete, and then, kind of got switched to DB? Just how have you seen his growth from the first time you met him to now?
Yeah, I knew a little bit just from, when I was at Oklahoma and different places, and you're always looking at, like, who are the top prospects in different areas, and I'd always recruited, the East Coast, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, wherever when I was at Oklahoma. So certainly was familiar with the name Darius Rush. Didn't really know much about him as a person and whatnot, but was familiar with his background certainly as a receiver. And I just remember when I first got hired, Dave, he was like the guy that I remember meeting him and just thinking there's something different about this guy. And, I got hired and I had all these individual meetings with players here in my office in Columbia, and then I went back to Norman for Christmas. And I just remember during that time that I was back in Oklahoma over the holidays, Darius would, he called me, just 2 or 3 times, just wanting to check in on me, see how I'm doing, talk, get to know me, all that stuff. And just remember thinking there's something different about this guy in a good way, and he's just worked really, really, really hard, and proud of his growth and proud of his development as a player and as a leader on our defense, a leader on our football team.
Hey, Shane, it's Ben Brenner. Apologies, it's a little bit of an involved question, but last year your guys' pass defense, at least based on certain statistics, was pretty good at kind of disrupting opposing passing games, putting teams behind the sticks, maybe a little more prone to giving up the big play. This year that's kind of flipped. You guys are kind of much better at that big play prevention. Does that reflect sort of a change in strategy and tactics, different personnel, or is that just one of those kind of things that's fallen with the way the year's gone?
That you're saying that we're not giving up as many big plays in the passing game? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Well, last year you guys were a little more disruptive, putting teams behind the sticks. This year, opponents are maybe driving a little bit more on you through the pass game, but you're not giving up big plays as much.
I don't know. It's a good question, Ben. I don't. I wouldn't say that our calls are much different. I think every game's different, and certainly we've got corners that are really, really talented. We've got 2 of the better corners in this league that are NFL type defensive backs, and they're able to shut a lot of things down on the outside for us the majority of the time, and we leave them on an island out there a lot, and they continue to make plays. And certainly we've had to really make a commitment to stopping the run coming out of that Arkansas game. We didn't do a good enough job of it, and knew we needed more of a commitment to stopping the run. So that meant committing more people to the box, and And we've played maybe a little bit more, just true three-deep zone coverage, trying to get an extra hat near the line of scrimmage to help with the run game as well. So not that we didn't do that last year, but we're maybe doing a little bit more of that. But I don't think we're really doing things different, Ben, schematically or calling different things. I think it's just the way it's kind of shaken out. Hopefully that we want to get stops no matter what. So I don't want to all of a sudden turn it into a big play fest. But I think back to the Florida game last year, and I think they hit us on two big deep balls down the middle early in the game, if I remember correctly. And part of that was, okay, we are going to stop the run, and we're going to make them make throws to beat us. And when you do that, you're going to give up some deep balls occasionally, but then you got to settle down, and we did that last year, and that's kind of our mindset this year too.
Makes sense.
Shane, it's the other Ben. I think you guys declined a 10-second runoff at the end of the first half. It was I was just curious, kind of what kind of was the decision there? What kind of happened in that?
Because I was talking to Clayton about it, and I want to say we had 2 timeouts left, if I'm not mistaken, Ben, and they had I was trying to get the ball back. To make a long story short, I wanted to try and I knew they were in 2-minute mode, but I felt like at that point we had a chance now to, if I remember correctly, to get the ball back. If we could get 2 more stops and then use those timeouts, we may not have enough for a long drive, but with our punt pressure team, anytime you can make the opponent punt, I want to make the opponent punt, and that's what I was trying to do was make them at least bring up 4th down and make a decision on what they were going to do.
Cool. Thanks.
Hey, Shane, it's Alan. Your offensive line last night only gave up 1 sack, had a lot more push we've seen the last few weeks. Is that just better technique? Is that just playing better? What do you chalk that up to with your line last night?
I think they've been really good the majority of the season. We weren't good enough. None of us were against Missouri, but I think our offensive line was pretty dang good against A&M. I thought they were pretty good against Kentucky, and they were good against South Carolina State, and they were good against Charlotte. And I don't think it's just all of a sudden a one-night thing. They've been really damn good all year, in my opinion. And I think it's just continuity. We've stayed healthier the last few weeks, and those guys, it's showing. We've got a lot of guys that are good football players, and they've played a lot of snaps together. And Trey Jones started last night and played every snap of the game, and he continues to get better. And that group also.
Shane, a quick secondary follow-up. With kind of all the injuries and stuff, what is sort of the role for Marcellus Dial kind of in this mix currently?
We feel like we've got 3 starters at the corner position, Sel, Cam, and Darius in our mind. And we rotate all 3 of those, and it may be, okay, this guy's going to start, this guy's coming in on the next series. Or last night it was Cam and Rush started, and Sel was going to come in. I think the plan was the plan was the 3rd series of the game. I can't remember how exactly it shook out, but all 3 of those guys played. But then Sel's also a guy that he's smart and can play different positions. We want our guys to be able to do a little bit of everything. We got corners, we got a nickel, we got 2 safeties. Last night we played with some 6 DB sets towards the end of the game as well. So the more those guys can do, the better.
Hey, Coach, it's Andrew again. Whether or not Marshawn Lloyd comes back fully healthy for this next game and the rotation maybe is a little bit more healthy overall, do you envision Jaheim Bell continue to get snaps of running back the rest of the season?
I think he certainly looked very natural at running back last night, and Juju McDowell did some really good things, and CBS did some really good things, and Marshawn's obviously a really good running back. So I think, again, as always, we want to continue to try and get our best guys out there and find ways to get on the ball. So we've got to continue to be creative, and certainly I would imagine that would, mean that you'd see Jaheim do a lot of that stuff, which he had done some of that this year before, lined up as a fullback and handing him the ball in short yardage situations also.